Welcome to another edition of All Octaves with me, Val Kleinhans, where we talk music with the fans and the artists that make it. Today, we're chatting with Reed of Osyron, a Canadian progressive metal band out of Calgary, bridging European styles and homegrown ones as well. Reed, thanks for being here. Welcome, dude.
Hey, happy to be here, Val. Thanks very much for inviting me on. I'm excited to talk shop and shoot the shit, so it should be a good time.
Absolutely. So everybody seems to have their own definition of what progressive metal is. Every time I talk about it, I hear different things. How would you describe it? Because to me, it's like a fusion of heavy metal and progressive rock, really.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you just break it down simply, I guess that'd be a really good definition of it. I know that for us anyway, Siren, why we generally kind of categorize ourselves in that demographic or in that genre is just because we don't know where else to put ourselves. So I
Yeah.
was, yeah, I always think that, yeah, obviously with progressive metal, there's bands that have those progressive rock elements with the heaviness of metal for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but I also think that if you don't know where you belong, or if you kind of like can't be categorized into one specific genre per se, then maybe that's where you get lumped into, unless we come up with a different kind of label for it, I guess. So, I mean, I'm happy that Siren can be considered a prog band or a progressive metal band, but I don't know if we necessarily think that that is exactly always what we are. But I'm
Hmm.
happy that we could be included with some great bands or with some great musicians that belong to that genre.
Yeah. So your intention wasn't to stay progressive metal. What was the intention in the beginning? What was the story of Osiris from the beginning?
Well, from the very, very beginning, I wasn't in the band. That was Bobby and Christoph. They started the band back out in the province of Ontario in Canada, and they moved out west about a decade or so ago. And I came into the picture about 8 years ago. So the band, in one way or another, under different names and different lineups, has been going for quite some time. But I think really it was just just speaking on behalf of Bobby and Shistov, and I'm sure for my bandmates in general. Um, I'm pretty sure it's just about taking the genres or the music that you enjoy, that you love, and trying to create something that you hear in your head that maybe isn't out there yet. So maybe a lot of bands start off with trying to just replicate or try to cover, I guess you could say, their favorite artists and try and replicate that sound. But I think with Osiris, anywhere where it's kind of gotten to, and where I can kind of jump in and say, from when I've been in the band, it's really been about just trying to find our sound and really kind of carve our own path and carve our own niche within the world of metal, which is so diverse. And there's arguments and debates that will happen for millennia about what is what, who is who,
Yeah.
and whatever. But yeah, I think it's just about carving our own little piece of the pie. I think that's kind of what we've always set out to do, and what I'm proud of what we've been doing is just really trying to solidify what that is, really try and grab the bull by the horn, so to speak, and just kind of run with it. So that's more or less kind of what we're all about, and where I think it's come from, and where the original beginnings of the band stem from.
Yeah. Spoken spoken like a true creative, because I don't know that any creative ever feels like they're totally finished with the project. There's always something they want to tinker with. There's always something they want to play with. I mean, you've already been doing your thing for years now, and you're like, we're still trying to find our sound. And I'm sitting here listening to that going, what? Really? But it's true. It happens more often than not. Like, so what do you feel like you still like to experiment with or tinker with today?
Are you
Musically.
saying specifically for me or for the band?
Both musically.
Yeah, well, I think the number one thing we really kind of started to hone our craft, or kind of really focus more into, was less about, let's just say, the musicianship, because I've always felt the band, all the band members and stuff have really individually tried to be the best players they can be, or be the best musicians that they can be in their own right, in their own respective instruments. But I definitely say, as a collective, it's been a lot of songwriting. So I think that the way we go about songwriting, the maturity that comes from writing a bunch of songs, demoing a bunch of songs, performing a bunch of songs, et cetera, et cetera. I think that that's kind of like something that we've really tried to do. And then for me personally, it's just about pushing myself physically with my instrument because, you know, with the voice, it is physical. It's a part of who you are.
Hmm.
So you know, my own day to day life, trying to be healthier with what I eat and what I drink, um, taking things a lot more seriously in certain things.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then just trying to push myself as a vocalist and say, okay, well, what can I do that exceeds the previous release or exceeds the previous effort, and just make something that's really cool. It's something fun that I can be proud of, and hopefully one day when I'm old and decrepit, I can look back and say, yeah, I fucking did that. That was pretty cool. So that's on a personal note.
Yeah, got it. What did you have vocal lessons, or was this just singing just something you were interested in and kind of did on your own?
Yeah, I've never been formally trained. I've never taken a quote unquote vocal lesson.
Hmm.
Um, but I have done a lot of trial and error. I do have a background in musical theater. So when I was in junior high and high school, I did a lot of singing through that. And that's kind of where I learned to sing was being on stage, having to act and sing character work, like character voices and stuff. So that was a big part of kind of helping shape who I am today. But it's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of like doing something wrong and fucking something up, or temporarily hurting your voice, to doing something right and being like, oh, that sounded great, that felt great, that seems to be the right thing. So I kind of over the last decade and change have really kind of focused in on what was working and the efficiency behind it and how my voice
Hmm.
felt and how my body felt. And then kind of just went down that route. And now I've been just exploring more of my voice since then and just kind of pushing myself in different ways in a healthy way and in a patient way versus just kind of going in blind and
Yeah.
um, possibly damaging my voice, right? So
Right. We're not going the Phil Anselmo Pantera route where we're screaming through the entire 90s and now we're down tuning live because he's playing again. And we're down tuning to accommodate his new quote unquote voice. Like,
yeah, you know what? That's a good example. You know, maybe one day it'd be an absolute pleasure to meet Phil and to gush about
mhm.
the earlier Pantera records. But
Yeah.
it's crazy because yeah, if you just look at Cowboys and you look at that whole era, especially that record, it's I've always said it's probably one of the greatest metal vocal performances of all time. Like on
His
that album,
range. Yes.
it's incredible, and it's a shame that just due to you know like obviously the things that he battled mentally and internally as well as life choices
Mhm.
and stuff, it seems like it affected his voice permanently, and he'll never be able to replicate that, nor could we ever go back to that. But what he laid out there like that, it's frozen in time, and that's what's so cool about recorded material is that
Yeah.
it was done and it is there, and that is part of his legacy. And so it yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, talking about, different bands and well-known ones at that, and you being from Ontario, I was talking to Evgeny from Red Cane not too long ago, and I was telling him that I think from an American perspective, more of us know the Eastern Canada bands than we do ones in Western Canada or you guys. Like when we think when an American thinks Canadian metal band, we might think Three Inches of Blood, Cataclysm, Rush, not metal, but you get what I'm saying. That sort of category, or bands like that. So he felt that in response, your scene in Calgary is super supportive and super collaborative to boost everybody up. What are your thoughts on your local scene?
Yeah, well, with Evgeny or Jack as I've called him,
Oh.
he's a very driven individual,
Mm-hmm.
very you know very dedicated person, and I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with him a few times, and he's an absolute blast to be around, and it is great to watch his work ethic. And then on that same note about the scene out west here and out in Calgary, First off, I'm not from Ontario. I'm a Western Canuck, so I'm a diehard Western Canadian.
Oh, I
And
committed a sin. Don't
it's
get it
all good.
twisted.
It's all good. Bobby and Shishtoff are from Ontario. And so
Okay.
the band originated from Ontario and is now based out west. But to
Okay.
answer your question, yeah, I'd say for sure, like definitely being in a market like Western Canada where the population isn't as dense as out
Mm,
east. That's one thing, right? Like where you have more people and more of a concentrated group of people, that's where you start to see culture and art grow because there's a lot more people in one densely populated area doing that. So it makes sense why out in Quebec and Ontario and those kind of places that a lot of those metropolitan urban density
hmm
places are hubs for art and music. But out in Calgary, I'd say we're really good at producing like thrash bands, traditional heavy metal bands, power metal bands. We seem to have a lot of those kind of bands out here, especially out in like southern Alberta. Maybe even
mm,
like death too and black metal. I
hmm
feel for prog bands or for more experimental or alternative bands, it's maybe I don't think there's a lack of talent. I don't think there's a lack of support, and I don't think there's a lack of maybe a scene. But it
Yeah.
definitely kind of feels like we have to kind of climb a little bit, like tooth and nail, to kind of get to the forefront in our own scene a little bit more. And that's just me personally speaking. Maybe bands like Red Cane would have another perspective, but I've definitely felt like we've had to kind of make a little bit more noise to try and get to the forefront of our own scene, which is great. All more more kind of what should I say? You know, what's the word I'm looking for? But it's more kind of a reason for us to go out there and work our asses off, right? So that's why I think that Calgary is a great place for us to come from in some aspects because it's pushed us to work harder. But then in other aspects, it's kind of like, well, our sound maybe isn't as catered to this part of the country or maybe to this part of the world, and we're always trying to seek and branch out to other regions and other markets. So that's kind of Calgary from our perspective anyway.
Yeah, and all of you guys are step up and support each other and collaborate with each other constantly was kind of what he was explaining to me. And maybe he has more experience with that just because you're right, he is a driven dude and he's out there. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, recently I just did. There's a band called Cabracan that's based out of Calgary. That they're from Mexico actually, and they're based out of Calgary now. And I had the pleasure of singing on one of their records, and they're a really cool band. They're doing a lot of traditional folk stuff
Oh,
based in Mexico, using a lot of old languages from the Mexican region and traditional instruments and stuff, as well as blending it with like metal and stuff. So um, that's pretty cool because I got the pleasure of recording a song with them and singing in Spanish, which was really fun. So there is definitely that collaborative kind of mentality and definitely cohesion amongst a lot of people within the scene too.
did you know Spanish or did you have to learn?
Sí, sí, puedo hablar un poco de español.
Well, a little bit. Okay, got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Got
No,
it.
I've been able to speak a little bit. I'm not by any means advanced or super fluent, but
No,
yeah, I
I
can.
wish I was. I
Yeah, it's a beautiful language. I love it. Yeah, I've been teaching myself for about 2 years and change, and it's been a one hell of a journey, but it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I wish I knew it just because there is a large Hispanic and Latin presence here in the States, and I'm like, I really should brush up. Like I haven't done this since college. I would like I really need to get with like if things are changing and I need to get with it. I think about that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's such a widely spoken language, just worldwide in
Mm,
general. Like, of course, in the United States, but like just the whole country. You can probably go to almost every country on earth by now and find someone that speaks Spanish. I mean, maybe not in
mhm.
some more kind of Eastern countries and stuff like that, but it's so true. And it's such an awesome language, and the culture of the people are so fantastic worldwide. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I was reading when I was reading about the band, I saw the story of this grant that you received from Factor, which is an organization in Canada that does help acts like yourself and a lot of creatives. So, what is the story behind that grant and how you obtained it? Because I think every musician could learn from something like this or finding a local version of it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, I was just talking with a band that I just recently, Osyron, recently went on tour with, called Empress. They're based out of Pennsylvania, and their lead singer actually, Barbara, just moved to Calgary, our
Oh,
city. Yeah,
okay.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, she just recently married a musician and singer named Rav that's based out of Calgary here. And anyway, we were just chatting with some of their band members, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't have any of those kind of grants.
Not a
We
lot.
don't, yeah, we don't get a lot of that from the government, and we are really fortunate here in Canada because we have some of those kind of programs to help artists and to help people that are maybe not signed to a major label or not able to have access to outside support or investment. So for us, we looked at different programs both provincially and nationally, and we just kind of applied to as many as we could, and we didn't get a lot of them, if any. And then we kind of revised, and through the help of our manager and through our own efforts, we just kind of built up I guess you could say, like, our submission form or our
Hmm.
resume or whatever you want to call it. And
Yeah.
luckily, we ended up getting a pretty great grant from the government that really helped finance a lot of the things that make being in a band super expensive and unaffordable and
It's
very
an endless
taxing.
list. Yeah. It,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, we're very fortunate we got it. Hopefully, we're going to get a few more grants in the future, because we are more or less independently financed, and the grants help with that, and they kind of do what labels used to do back in the day, which they don't
yeah.
really do anymore. So that's kind of what the grant situation is, and we don't take it for granted. Um, you
Ah,
know,
pun
we
intended.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I didn't even mean to do that, so that's
But it
perfect.
made sense.
What can I say? What can I say? I'm an artist. This stuff just pops into my head. Anyway, but yeah, we're definitely taking full advantage of it. We don't cut any corners. We're completely respectful about the whole process and the institutions that
Hmm.
are involved, and we go 100% all in. And it's a great way for us to kind of get our art out there and to have people
Yeah.
hopefully listen to it. So.
How did you find out about these things? Is your government vocal about it, or are you having to like search, go on social media?
You know what? I From my own perspective and from what I hear, I don't hear a lot of it from the government.
Okay.
I'm sure the governments of the world have always got their shit doing other
Other
things,
things, yeah.
or not doing other things, or not doing anything at all, or doing the wrong
Mm-hmm.
things, whatever. Doesn't matter. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, luckily, because there is that, like, you're always looking at the band ahead of you in your local region or your peers, and you kind of go, oh, okay, well, how are they there? Why are they there? What have they done differently? And then
Okay.
you look at the next band up here and the next band up here, and so you kind of just hear it from different people in and around your scene, and through
Mm-hmm.
the connections that you make. So we've kind of heard it word of mouth, and also just through our manager, and through different peers and friends and bands that we've gotten to know over the years. So that's kind of how we heard about it. And I'm sure that's how other people are hearing about it right now, is by
Yeah.
me just talking about it, or just passing or whatever. It's just kind of how it works, right?
Talk to your local scene. That's the lesson I learned from
Yeah,
that part of the conversation. Okay, got it. For things like that. But it's an important resource and I do wish we saw more of it. And I think it's something that's helpful to know because we don't always consider that something like that is even available. We're just not even aware in general. But
100%.
it's good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think honestly, like, it's something that I just recently talked about. about just education in general. Like we should be teaching
Yeah.
people how to self research and self teach, because the systems are never set up to cater to everyone, right? They
No.
try and cater to the masses, but everyone's an individual. Everyone's different. Everyone learns and reacts differently and feels differently. And so I think that goes, it's the same thing with researching these kind of programs. Like, I don't know what it's like in the States. I'm not American. I don't look at any of the programs down there, but
Hmm.
looking at your own city, looking at your own state, looking at your federal government, looking at different institutions and programs that are out there, like you never know. Like doing your own
Yeah.
research and delving in deep and talking to your peers is a great way to kind of find out if there is something out there for you. Because like I don't have the answers for anyone in the States, but you never know. You never know what's out there and what's available.
Yeah, it's good general advice, something everybody can keep in mind. Your latest release, correct me if I'm wrong, is momentous. Tell me about that.
Well, it's a momentous album. It was a momentous, yes, it was a momentous moment in our lives. Yeah, all jokes aside, it's our recent effort and the one that we're the most proud of. And as I'm sure most artists say, their most recent release is the thing that they're
The
most proud
favorite.
of, or the yeah, yeah, of course, right? You should always be proud of what you've been working on, endlessly on. But yeah, that came out almost a year ago. Next month will be a year, which is crazy to think. It hasn't felt that long, but a
Yeah.
lot of things have happened since then, and it's all because of that record and the team that we have behind us, helping push it out there and having people listen to it. So it's a great album. I'm very proud of it, and the whole band is proud of it.
Nice. Instagram told me that some covers might be on the way too. Maybe, possibly. Can you say anything about
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, I don't know if you've seen on our YouTube channel, but we've done covers in the past. Like we've done
Hmm.
Toto, we've done Queensryche,
Mm.
we've done actually a Pantera cover years ago, and we actually did our own national anthem, which was pretty cool too.
Yes,
Uh,
I did see that. The only reason I know the Canadian anthem is because I went to a lot of Penguin games. And then,
that
yeah, that's it.
whenever there'd be a Canadian squad coming through, they
Yeah, usually like when we played, I think the Maple Leafs most often, from what I remember, more than the Western Canadian teams,
yeah,
probably because same
yeah,
conference. But
you play, yeah,
yeah,
you probably play like Toronto, Montreal, or
yeah,
Ottawa.
yeah, yeah.
When you play.
So anytime any of them rolled in, we were like, oh, I know that song. Okay, but
Yeah, yeah. So we did a metal version of it, and it's done really well. It gets played in some assemblies and some schools across Canada, which is pretty cool.
awesome.
Um, yeah, yeah, pretty awesome. We're spreading the metal. We're spreading the metal across the country, but we're doing it in a responsible, educational way.
Corrupting
Um,
the youth, bringing them
exactly.
in.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, these covers, we actually did this thing called "Make Us Your Bitch." It was this package, yeah, this package that we sold, and we only had a limited amount of spots available,
Mhm,
and anyone could pay the amount that was listed, and they got to pick any song they wanted to be Osyron, like kind of like a Osyronified or Osyronified or whatever you want to call it.
mhm.
Um, and so we're in the process of getting those all wrapped up. It's been a long time. We feel really bad because these people spent money on it a while ago, but we haven't forgotten about it, and we are doing it, and we're about halfway done, if not over halfway. And yeah, it's just various genres and songs and whatever, and we're just gonna throw it out there in our own way, and maybe make a funny video about it too. So that's kind of what's going on.
I can't wait. Other than that, what's next for you, for Osiris in general? What are we looking forward to?
Yeah, well, I mean, we recently just got back from United States tour and Eastern
Mm,
Canada tour, as well as going over to Europe for a festival. So we're kind of we're kind of sitting back a bit and not doing as much shows for the foreseeable future, and we're really focusing on writing this next record. So we're in the
mm.
process of demoing out ideas, structuring things, kind of collaborating in different ways to kind of shape our sound and you know, push towards that niche that we've talked about, or that kind of carving out that path. So that's kind of what we're doing right now, and staying busy behind the scenes. That's what we're always trying to do. Is if we're not gigging, we're doing something.
Yeah. Spoken like a true working band. That's kind of how our local scene in Minnesota works too. Like during the winter when you can't do anything, they're in either recording and writing, one or the other,
Right.
like for 5.5 months out of a year while winter is around. Then as soon as spring hits, it's like they hit the ground running. And until like about now everybody's starting to head inside. And then
Yeah.
starts again.
Yeah, we actually on that tour we were on, we did a bunch of shows with a band called Aftertime that are based out of
You did
Minnesota.
not. I love After Time. They're local for us in Rochester, Minnesota. Like AJ
Yeah,
and Sarah and Brad, all of them. Oh my God, I love them so much.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Sarah couldn't make the tour, unfortunately. So
Right.
Barbara, who's the lead singer of Empress, the aforementioned, who just moved to our home city up
Mm-hmm.
here in Canuckland. She's yeah, she filled in for that tour. But yeah, so I had the pleasure of meeting all those guys. It was pretty
I
cool, and
know.
so,
I can't believe I forgot that. And now you just reminded me. I was like, oh my God, you do know them.
yeah,
It becomes a smaller and smaller world every day.
yeah. It's really cool. It's been an absolute blast getting to meet some American bands, and some people that we didn't know before, and now we do, and it's really cool to kind of make those connections.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what's next. Reed, thank you for chatting with me. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks, Val. Happy to be here.